Good morning, St. Francis. Good morning, people of God. It is Tuesday, the 19th day of November, 2024, Tuesday of the 33rd week of the year, the 33rd week in Ordinary Time. Again, we are counting down the days into the end of our church year and the beginning of Advent right around the corner. 10 days till Thanksgiving, 36 days until Christmas Day. So again, getting it all in order, getting it all together. Here this morning, back from travels again for a little bit. One of our great playgrounds here on our campus of the Franciscan School, and again behind us is the great field right over there. This is also one of the pathways to the runways at Raleigh-Durham International Airport, and so many times this is where the planes will fly directly over us as we have our athletic events. So it's kind of interesting. You wonder what the people are thinking who might look out the window and see us out on that field, playing our different sports and things like that. But today, on this Tuesday of the 33rd week of the year, we continue with the revelation of John that God gives, that Christ gives to the Apostle John on the island of Patmos, where he has been exiled. Again, he is the only one who is the only apostle basically who was not martyred. He dies a natural death, but he dies in exile. And so the opening of this revelation is a series of letters to 7 different churches. Ephesus was yesterday. Today we have Sardis and Laodicea, how it's pronounced in many different ways. Whereas Ephesus wasn't so bad and there was some affirmation of the church at Ephesus, today Sardis and Laodicea, nothing is going right, it seems. We don't know exactly what's not going right, but we know that Jesus isn't happy with it. And he's basically telling both these churches to shape up. In Sardis, he says, you were alive, but now you're dead. Why? Again, we don't know, but you better get back to being alive because Jesus is coming, he says. And so to make sure that Sardis recognizes the importance, of living this faith and of being a sign of unity and a sign of difference within this world. Not living up to that and not living the life that comes with that is not helpful to the spread of the gospel. The letter to the church at Laodicea basically is a little bit more complex, and it has 2 instances, that basically have kind of come down as important or interesting sort of understandings about God's relationship with us, or Christ's relationship with us. The first is that, again, the church in Laodicea is sort of mealy. It's mealy, wishy-washy. It doesn't really, sometimes it embraces the faith, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it lives the gospels, sometimes it doesn't. And basically Christ says, I wish you were either hot or cold to this gospel message, but you are neither. You're lukewarm. And because you're lukewarm, I will spit you out of my mouth. Now, in the Greek, the word that is used for spit can also mean vomit, which is a little bit more severe, a little stronger. Again, we in the New American Bible, Revised Edition, go for a softer tone, but no, it's vomit. God doesn't want any part of us if we're not going to take this faith seriously, or if we're not going to reject it. God doesn't want any part of us if we're going to be wishy-washy about this, which is, again, God does want a part of us, but the thing about it is that for faith to matter, again, it's either you embrace it or you don't. You don't kind of say, I'll dabble here, I'll dabble there. I'll pay attention here, I'll pay attention there. Either reject it all, or basically make it a part of your life. Make it something that allows you, to see the world differently, to respond to the world differently, to be a difference in this world. Again, a believer thinks, hopes, acts, responds differently than everybody else does. If we don't live up to that, in any kind of stronger way, then we're wasting our time. We're spinning our wheels. And Jesus basically says, I might as well just vomit you out of my mouth. I might as well spit you out of my mouth than have you deal with all of this, because it's not getting anywhere, and it's not allowing the faith to bear the fruit it must. The second part of that letter to the Laodiceans is basically that great image from the 19th century, I think it is, of Jesus with a lantern at night knocking at a door. Because Jesus says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. Open it, let me in, that I may dine with you. Again, Jesus wants this to work. Jesus wants this, to be something that shapes our lives and our futures in an incredible and wonderful way. We have to realize that. We have to want to see that. We have to want to experience that. So let him in. Let Christ in. Let him dine with you. Let's see what happens when he sits at table with you, and maybe perhaps transforms and changes what you thought was real and true and always into what can be and what is possible and what is filled with life and hope. He's asking the Laodiceans to kind of reflect upon that. But it's also a question for all of us. That's either our faith is strong and powerful or it isn't. Do not let it be lukewarm and wishy-washy. Do not let it be one of a number of other things that we are responsible for and have to do in our life. Let it be the most responsible, the most important thing, the one that we will be most responsible to, because that is the way to life. The gospel, again, talking about this eating and drinking with Jesus, it's the story of Zacchaeus. Again, the short man couldn't see Jesus through the crowd when he was passing through the town, gets up into a tree and kind of embarrasses himself, makes himself a spectacle. And Jesus notices him and says, let me come and dine at your table. Let me into your house. I will have dinner with you. And the people are, flummoxed with all of this. The people can't believe this. This man is going to eat with a terrible sinner because, again, tax collectors, one of the most hated groups of people in ancient Jewish society, because they made their living. Their salary was taken from asking for excess of the taxes that Rome required, and they kept the excess and lived high on the hog. Jesus goes to his house and eat. The people are astounded and scandalized by all of this. And yet something happens during that dining. Zacchaeus all of a sudden comes out of his house and says, I am going to pay back what I have extorted. I'm going to give back what the excesses that I took that I didn't need. I'm going to be fair. I'm going to be just now in being a tax collector. Two things come from that. The first is that Jesus, after having dinner with this man, does not tell him to stop being a tax collector, because if he did, the man would die. He would not be able to support himself or his family. So be a tax collector, but what kind of tax collector will you be? Again, you can be fair and still do the work that needs to be done. You can be kind and still do the work that needs to be done. You can have mercy and still do the work that needs to be done. The second is that this man, Zacchaeus, comes to this transformation of heart, not before he dines with Jesus, but as he dines with Jesus. I mean, too many times the Eucharist is seen as this prize, only for the most pious, the most holy, the most devout, whatever it is, and you better get your act together before you receive it. And that is not what Luke's gospel is saying. One eats with Jesus, one eats Jesus, one eats the Christ in order to be transformed. You are not transformed before you do that, because we cannot do the transformation on our own. It has to be the work of Christ. The more that we forget about that, the more that we exclude people from the table, the more we do what Jesus does not want us to do. It is not a private club. It is not a private meal. It is not only for those who are wealthy or powerful or whatever it is to share in. It is for everyone who needs it, because it is food for the hungry, food for the sick, food to change body, mind, and soul into what it is that God has desired and asked us to be. A blessed day, St. Francis and people of God. May the Lord give you his peace.